Quiet Place Part 2 is written and directed by John Krasinski. It stars Emily Blunt, Melissa Simmons, Killian Murphy, and Noah Jupe. This sequel, it takes place right after the events of the first film. And we focus on the Abbott family who have to venture into the outside world because their home is destroyed. As they explore the unknown, they start to realize that the creatures that hunt by sound are not the only threats that's out there. And we have our movie. I loved A Quiet Place, the film that came out in 2018. That is such a fantastic horror film. It's innovative, it's creative, original, anxiety inducing, and tension filled. That movie surprised me. I remember being excited for it, and it surprised me in how good it was. And it was a huge success. It had a $17 million budget, and it made over $340 million worldwide. And it was one of the better received movies of that year. Critics highly praised it, and so did the audience. A sequel was inevitable. And I was very excited for the sequel. For those of you who don't know, A Quiet Place Part 2 was my most anticipated film of the summer. I loved the first one, and I thought this movie looked promising. I was excited to see where they were going to take the story and the characters. I finally got to see A Quiet Place Part 2 last night. So the question is, what did I think of A Quiet Place Part 2? Quiet Place Part 2, in my opinion, is absolutely phenomenal. Easily one of the best movies to come out in 2021. And if you ask me, I think this film is better than the first one. And that's saying a lot because I love the first one, but there's so many things about this that's improved. And overall, it's just such a fantastic horror film. It's one of the best horror sequels I think I've ever seen. So let's talk about why I think this film is better than the first one and what just makes it great overall. If you thought the first one was anxiety inducing, you haven't seen anything yet, I'm telling you. For people who think this sequel might be unnecessary, I am telling you within the first 10 minutes, those thoughts will automatically disappear. The first 10 minutes of this movie in particular are spectacular. They show you day one, how everything started to happen, and it's riveting. It's really masterful direction that's present here. And I was just riveted. From the opening scene of the movie until the end credits, I was just riveted with the whole movie. You can tell that John Krasinski is very passionate about this story. And it's funny because originally he didn't want to do a sequel, but eventually he started writing ideas, and those ideas became a reality because he came back being the sole writer of this sequel and then once again being behind the camera. I have to say his directing in this movie is a lot more confident. It's, like I said, it's masterful. And the way he just utilizes the camera, the cinematography here, it's very visceral. And it contains that atmosphere that is so chilling. And you're just on the edge of your seat. I would say I was on the edge of my seat more in the sequel than I was with the first one. And from a horror perspective, it is scarier. It is a lot more intense. And the stakes are absolutely more higher. I'm not going to spoil anything, but you get to see how the characters change, and they're not always together in this one. In the first one, family was a big thing, right? But in this one, some people have to go their separate ways, and that actually made it a lot more intense. I felt more tension that way. But beyond the whole horror aspect, right? From a horror perspective, I already mentioned that it's scarier, it's more intense, and I was more on the edge of my seat. What makes this movie great as well is just what they did with the story and the world building and how they explored the characters and introduced new ones. It does what any sequel should do. The sequel that it's a sequel that explores new ideas in such a great way and justifies itself as being necessary. Because I know there are people out there who thought A Quiet Place ended not necessarily in a cliffhanger, but it ended in a way where there didn't need to be a sequel, right? But I'm telling you, within those first 10 minutes, you're gonna think otherwise, because it really just showcases that there is more to be told. And yeah, I gotta say, I was excited for this movie, and it even managed to surpass expectations in that level. I haven't even talked about the acting yet, and the acting here is magnificent from everybody. So we have Emily Blunt, right? Emily Blunt is one of my favorite actresses working today. She's in so many movies, and she kicks ass like all the time. Here, she's great. I mean, she has quite a bit to do here. They take her character in a different direction. who really stands out to me in this movie is Cillian Murphy and Melissa Simmons. They have a subplot together. That's all I'll say. And their subplot is fascinating. It was my favorite subplot of the three, but that's not a knockout on the other two because the other two are just as effective. And I like the directing technique that if in one subplot, right, if something intense was happening, then in the other two, simultaneously, something was happening in those subplots. And it just made for really great direction. And I was just more riveted as a viewer. And I could tell that people in my audience felt the same way. It was a packed theater, by the way, and everyone was silent. Everyone was silent because that's how great the sound design of this movie is. The concept of this movie is you can't make any noise because these creatures, if they hear anything, they can hunt you down and they'll kill you. And I think that's such a creative idea. And writer and director John Krasinski, he really utilizes that concept so well. And the execution overall is just phenomenal. Noah Jupe, he's another actor who he was in the first one, of course, and in this one, I think he does even a better job. Same with Melissa Simmons. Both of the kids here, they really shine. I have to say, this movie feels like, at some points, it felt like it was directed by Spielberg, and that's how good the direction is. I have no hesitation in saying that statement because it's just visually, it's just stunning, and you're so invested because you love the characters. And it's an intense movie, man. This is not one of those movies that is going to be thought-provoking and you're going to have to really think outside the box for 3 days. It's a type of movie that knows exactly what it is, and it does it extremely well. Everything about the first one is improved upon here, easily. So this is one of the best horror sequels I've ever seen. Definitely one of the best sequels I've seen in recent memory. If I had to say a nitpick, and maybe I won't feel this way on a second watch, but for now, I'll say this. Djimon Hounsou, he's a 2-time Oscar winner, and he's a great actor overall. When I saw him in the trailer and when I heard he was announced for this movie, I was very excited to see what he would do. And I have to say, I was a little bummed out with how he turned out in this movie. He's not bad at all in the film. I like the scenes he's in. I like his performance. I just wish they did more with him. To be frank, I think he deserves better. But again, that could change on a second viewing. Maybe it's my expectations that's like that. I expected that he was going to have more of a role here, and he didn't. But that's fine because everyone else here, like I said, shined. Oh, let me talk about Cillian Murphy. He's one of my favorite actors. He's very underrated. Yeah, he was phenomenal here. He's a scene stealer. And I have to say, I really liked how they showed other people's perspectives outside of the Abbott family and how their life changed and what they went through. Yeah, he was great in the movie, and that's all I'll say about him, because the less you know about this movie, the better it'll be, trust me. My goal here is just to convince you guys to go see this movie on the biggest screen possible. This was made for the theatrical experience. Watch it in IMAX if possible, or Dolby. I would say IMAX preferably, but if you can do it in Dolby as well, that would also be awesome, because this film was made for the theatrical experience. I am telling you, it is. And I love this film. Besides my nitpick with Djimon Hounsou, I pretty much loved everything else. I think this is a better film than the first one, and it's one of my favorite movies of the year. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. Might go higher on a second viewing. We'll see. But 9.5 out of 10 is still a very high score. I would highly recommend it. If you like or love the first one, seek this out. If you don't like the first one, still seek this out, because I think it's possible you may like it. I know some people who didn't like the first one and they loved the sequel. So I would say give it a chance if you're one of those who didn't like the first one. And that's my review of A Quiet Place Part 2. Thank you guys for watching my review of A Quiet Place Part 2. I hope you guys enjoyed the review and will take it into consideration in regards to checking out this A Quiet Place Part 2 or not. I will leave the link to my top 5 most anticipated films of the summer movie season, because I mentioned A Quiet Place Part 2 was my most anticipated summer movie season. And for those who are new to this channel or might have missed that video, I'll post a link to my top 5 most anticipated films that are coming out this summer in the description box below. And my next review will be for Cruella. I saw that movie on Thursday night, so I'm going to review that in a couple of days or so. So expect that soon. I'll see you guys next time with my review of Cruella. Make sure to like this review, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, share the review if you want, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.